Hi, we're going to investigate the same function that we saw at the chalkboard, only this time we're going to look at a spreadsheet to analyze numerically what goes on as our xy values go toward 0, 0 for the function that we saw before. F of xy is equal to y squared divided by x squared plus y squared. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to input values along for our x values and our y values. You get to watch me mistype. So my x values along the top, I'm going to start at -1 and then go by increments of 1/10 along the top. I'm demonstrating this so that you can set this up yourself. And I'll highlight the x coordinate values in green. I'm going to have the same values going from -1 to some positive value. This time my y values, I'm going to color in maybe blue. So now we're thinking of this as an XY table where my X inputs are up here along the horizontal and my Y inputs are along the vertical. And then I'm going to create a formula that will give me an output of this function. So this function A1, maybe it won't let me select it because I'm in Drive and not in Excel, but I want this value to be y squared divided by x squared plus y squared. My y coordinate in this case is this cell, so I'm going to click on the cell B3 squared divided by my x coordinate squared plus my y coordinate squared. And that should give me my z value output. So I have my x value input, my y value input, and together they're giving me a single real value, z value, for my output. Now I could just enter this formula over and over and over again for all of the squares, but fortunately we have technology to make this easier for us. So I'm going to edit this formula because I don't want, if I click and drag, this program will think that I want the cell right above it each time in the formula because I just chose adjacent cells, and that's not really what I want. So instead I'm going to freeze some of the pieces of this formula. I know that I always want my y value to be in this B column, so I'm going to freeze my B columns by putting a $sign right before it. And I also know that I want my x coordinate value to always be the first one, or I guess in this case the second one, the green column, or the green row. So I'm going to freeze that at 2 and press enter. So those $signs are just going to freeze that B value and that 2 value. Notice I get the same output that I got before, but when I drag this, it'll give me the correct values relative to what I was looking for. So when I examine this cell down here where my y input was 0 and my x input was -1, notice that in the formula my y coordinate value is B13, which is exactly the adjacent one to this column that I want it to be. So now that I've inputted that part of the formula, I'll click it and I can, I'll click it and then I'll drag the other direction as well. There we go. Drag it this way, and then we can examine our table of values as it fills in. So we see that as I maintain a y value of 0, so approaching along the line y equals 0, my outputs for this formula are consistently 0 until I hit the point 0, 0, which is undefined, which is what we expect because, as it says here, it's division by 0. Whereas when I approach along the line x equals 0, my output values are consistently 1, which is what we found before as well. And as I approach 0, 0, we see that along this line and along this line, our values don't agree. Notice also, I could think about approaching along the diagonal y equals x, which is given by these diagonal cells, which I can't actually highlight nicely in a row, that those are consistently 0.5. So depending upon all different types of approaches to the value 0, 0, these paths are each giving me different z values for my output.